Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's all happening. 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 It's all Welcome to the podcast, episode 88 of It's All Happening with Zach Leary podcast. That's me, your host. I'm still more or less Zach Leary. I'm recording this intro in the backseat of the car in India, sitting next to my beloved Apyananda as we are driving from Delhi to Nainital, where tomorrow, if all goes according to plan, with the operative word being according to plan. Who knows what the plans are? But if all goes according to plan, we're going to have darshan with Siddhi Ma at the Neem Karoli Baba Temple in Kenji. So this intro is being recorded en route there. And on the podcast, episode 88, we have Duncan Trussell. Yes, the great Duncan Trussell. This was recorded live at the Psychedelic Science conference in Oakland, California last week. And what can we say about Duncan? But first, a little bit on India. I want to read something from Srila Prabhupada's writing. Our loving propensity expands just as vibration of light or air expands, but we do not know where it ends. Practicing Bhakti Yoga teaches us the science of loving everyone of the living entities perfectly by the easy method of loving Krishna. Well, I don't know if the method of loving Krishna is easy. Sometimes it feels pretty easy. But here we are in India where things do feel some kind of easy, graceful, effortless, but at the same time, they are chaotic, dirty, intense, loud, and really take your neural cerebral cortex and explode it into a spontaneous combustion of single-pointed energy known as Bhakti Yoga, as you are discovering the very entities of who it is you think you are, the very idea of who it is you think you are. All of that goes inside and out here in India because you realize that you are so much more and so much more eternal and so much more expansive than these little ideas, these little notions of who we think we are here on planet Earth on a day-to-day level. So, wow, it's pretty cool to record an intro here from India. I got to admit, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty neat. I love talking to you, my listeners from India. Pretty great. Maybe send me an email, let me know what you think. So Duncan Trussell, episode 88, we talked about a lot of things as only Duncan and I can do. And I think this is part 6 of between Duncan and myself, between our two podcasts. And with Duncan, we can just pretty much just jump right in. So here we go. The great Duncan Trussell from the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. Enjoy.
Action.
Duncan Trussell, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming. It's been a while.
Thanks for having me, Zach. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man. It's been a while since we've I think this is part 6 between the two of our podcasts.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Mine and yours. And yeah, very cool, man. Here we are live at Psychedelic Science Conference in Oakland, California.
Yes.
I see you yesterday, and you say, I'm an LSD man. That's what you said.
That is true. Born and bred.
Are you born and bred an LSD man? Yeah?
Yeah, I think. Well, I was in a weird way. Yeah, I was that was my first psychedelic, and maybe that's what it is. Yeah, I was actually talking to a psychiatrist here, and he was saying that he thinks that they're going to, at some point, or there's a possibility that they may be able to do genomic testing to determine what psychedelics are going to go well with a person.
Oh, very interesting. Kind of like 23andMe, but for psychedelics.
Yeah. Yeah, because
that's very interesting.
It's really interesting because people's bodies process psychedelics and the same psychedelics in different ways.
That's right.
So it may be that you hear this, and I'm always quite suspicious of it, but I have seen it happen where some people don't even respond to psychedelics. Have you ever seen that before? A person who takes MDMA and it doesn't affect them in the same way.
It doesn't affect them in the same way. Well, then of course there's the Neem Karoli Baba story where.
And
it doesn't affect them. They're already
right.
there. Yeah, but I've seen it doesn't metabolize in the same way for certain people.
It's very odd to think that's. I think it's cool so people could be a little more compassionate with folks who are like, you know what, I don't like marijuana. Because, there's a stigma sometimes where people are like, come on, what are you afraid of? It's great. But it's like, no, maybe their body, when it gets marijuana inside of it, just doesn't know how to handle it.
Well, I mean, this theory is really like one of the great sort of like takeaway learning points from the 60s because, in the 60s, so many people did LSD because it was cheap to make, easy to distribute. It was an easy molecule to make. I mean, they were literally giving it away in bathtubs at the acid tests,
Right.
Whereas other, molecules were much more complicated. And so many people did LSD that probably shouldn't have. I think we can say that now without it's not a bummer, it's not a bad thing, but that's what happened. So many people did acid who probably shouldn't have, and so the data set just wasn't really consistent. And now all of this time later, we have a little bit more we have more knowledge.
Yeah, that's the problem with the prohibition is this is the problem. It's like people are doing things, that maybe they aren't prepared for. They don't know what it is even. They can't even imagine, especially back then.
Right.
Who knows what LSD even is? If you've heard of this weird thing, you can't even imagine what. There's hardly any art. There's no, there's no like crazy. There's nothing to look at and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to pass on that one. I don't want to see that. But
that's really, really, really interesting. I have a friend who he was born and raised in Switzerland, and he was doing heroin in the 60s. And he had no knowledge of what a junkie was or what detoxing was. He never read about it, never heard about it. Didn't know about any of that. And so he did heroin. He didn't get strung out because like that knowledge, that story of, oh my God, I'm going to get strung out. I'm going to kick. I'm going to be dope sick. It wasn't even in his head.
That's so weird.
Isn't that interesting? So it's kind of like, wow, how much of that is placebo? I wonder.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a voodoo quality to the way we do things out here in the West, and then the omnipotent power of the doctor, the medical professional.
Well, yeah, I know, but that's an interesting thing because here we are at the Psychedelic Science Conference, and that's the fusion of the two worlds.
Yeah, that's right.
Mysticism and ancient New Thought, ancient wisdom traditions and plant medicines and tribal rituals and ritualization and the human interaction with all of that. That's a really, really cool thing. But we're juxtaposing it on top of like the omnipotent doctor. And here's the data and here's how you're going to do it.
Yep.
Good thing?
Well, it's an annoying thing. It's like the Ram Dass did this. He went to the East, got the data, brought it back, figured out a way to say it in a way that would translate into the Western psyche. And it stuck. Be here now. He took all this stuff, figured out a way to say it in just the right way, and it worked. It stuck. Thus, we have the satsang and the movement that Ram Dass represents. So, in the same way, this group of science, the collective of people here, is trying to do the same thing, but with these plant medicines. And I think, so it's kind of like, all right, I've got to come and bring something to you, oh great Western mind, that I know works. Like there's people out there who are like, no, this is medicine that heals me. It healed me. It will heal many ailments that you have. I know it works. I give it to my family. I'm a doctor out here. But in the West, we're like, really? You're wearing a feather headdress, asshole. I don't want to fucking hear it. I don't want to hear it. Turn that shit into numbers and maybe I'll listen.
Right.
That's frustrating. And, we're so conditioned by the process of science and that, I think, okay, but I know we must protect ourselves from the quacks.
Right.
We must protect ourselves. We must know what it is. We have to be more careful or people are going to sucker people or people are not going to get the treatment they need. when they need to go to like a Western doctor, they're gonna like get smear themselves with some lava cream.
Yeah, man, they are. But I wonder what, like, because so much of the modern psychedelic movement, like in the form of MAPS, here we are, or the Hefner Institute, or whatever, all of they're great organizations doing good work. But I wonder what that's going to do to the recreational world. Like, I wonder. I assume it's a good thing because it does like kind of it demystifies like a lot of like the paranoid, like the bullshit, right? Gets rid of the bad information so parents can be educated and all that kind of stuff, and purity, of course, like we're talking about.
Yep.
Purity is a good thing. But yeah, what does that do just to be, because so much of like the American ethos has like done away with mysticism, and just like here we are, we're living in the information age. We're living in the age of big data.
Yeah.
Where everything is profiled and categorized and created into a giant algorithm.
Yeah.
So what's that do for the psychedelic experience, I wonder?
Well, I mean,
know.
it's if we can understand I think it's going to do a lot for the psychedelic experience. Is going to do a lot for like AI, understanding the way that consciousness works, helping us know what parts of the brain at least are generating self-awareness, and maybe from that we could make the leap into digitization of that thing. And I think psychedelics are going to play a part in understanding the human brain, and understanding the human brain completely is the first step to full brain emulation, which creates an AI. So I think there's going to be some kind of, hopefully, connection between the two. That's one way it's going to help science. But how is it going to affect the psychedelic experience? It's like, oxytocin. The love chemical.
The love chemical, yes.
Oh, oxytocin. When you're feeling love, it's oxytocin coming out of your synaptic vesicles. Well, when I'm feeling love, I may refer to that idea like, oh, this must be oxytocin. But then it's just like, this is way more than that, Yeah,
but there is like, okay, so what is that thing though? Like the oxytocin thing, like, okay, you're going through a relationship and it's starting to crumble and disintegrate and it's starting to fall apart and crumble, right? But then you have that sort of memory recall oxytocin hit of the sex. And you're like, oh, God damn, like she's just driving me crazy, and calling each other names, but she's still so hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the oxytocin thing is. I mean, there's something that is undeniable about it.
Well, when I think like it's case to case, but I would say that what's happening there is probably more of an existential problem, which is that a person ends up alone, and you want to, or by a person I mean me. Yes. If you end up alone, you realize that much of what you do maybe is trying to escape the feeling of being alone. You want to distract yourself from your. People want to distract themselves a lot. Now, one great way to distract yourself is sex, and one great way to distract yourself is surfing the internet, and one great way to distract yourself is like the opioids, booze. Distract yourself from what? Well, there is a feeling that will creep into a person's heart that's like suddenly you're on fire. Oh my God, is this my life? Shuffling down the street alone, peering into the windows look, it's a family eating. I'll never ever put down that weird plastic shit so my baby won't puke on the table or whatever. Will I feel that? Oh my God, my life is slipping away. I'm going to die alone. Right? And so that feeling is so overwhelming and so unsatisfying and uncomfortable that we run from it. Just like in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. We run from the demons into our parents fucking. And the demon of loneliness, or the demon of like isolation, or the demon of horniness, which is really kind of loneliness. It's like chases us into fucking. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
The demon chases into fucking. We get chased by the demon of loneliness right into a vagina, or right into a penis. Oh yeah, fuck the lonely out of me. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, you're gonna fuck the the lonelier way.
And the crazy thing is, it works for a second.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why going within, the hardest thing you can do is to go within and just, that's why people can't meditate. Sit and do nothing for 20 minutes.
5. Do it for 5.
Do it for 5, right. Just literally do nothing for 20, 5, 10, 20 minutes. Turn off everything and just do it. But the other side is, we're hardwired. Like the demon of fucking is, in that oxytocin thing, it's like when you have that sort of like kind of the ephemeral sort of buzz that's tingling on your skin when you meet that other person that you're like, oh my God, she's the one, she's the one. That's kind of just also God's way of saying, oh, make a fucking baby, because you don't feel that with everyone.
Right.
Well,
yeah, make a baby or whatever.
Make a baby. We got it. We're a virus that has to keep going. Got to reproduce.
When you're sitting with your child, well, the reason I had you is because I'm a virus and I have to I have to reproduce.
And I have to reproduce, child.
You're just the offspring of a I think that we don't have to fuck for loneliness and we don't have to fuck for babies. But I think that if you can get to you're saying, 20 minutes sitting, try sitting for 20 minutes. But it's like a hallway. There's a hallway between rooms. That hallway is not a fun hallway to walk down. It's like a lot of scary things and mirrors on the walls that distort who you are, and you look at it and you see yourself as a asshole, or you see yourself as the greatest thing ever. You see yourself as a failure. You see yourself as whatever it is. That's the hall of meditation. But then once you get through that and get to the other side, sometimes you're like, why don't I do this every day? This is the greatest thing there is.
That's exactly. And we were talking about, before we started tape, we were talking about the ISKCON movement. And, the guy who was on my podcast, Shama Sundar, does. But that's exactly behind the whole Gaudiya Vaishnav philosophy. It's not exactly expressed in this way, but that's the result. That's why, like, sense objects and sense, distractions.
Yeah.
They are distractions.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't look at them as, like, I like that word that they use, because it's not like it's evil or it's like a demon, sex is bad, or you've sinned.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's cool about that sort of, that Vedic knowledge. Unlike Christianity is like, you're sinning. It's wrong. It's bad. Yeah. And Gaudiya Vaishnavism, they're like, oh, it's a distraction.
Yeah.
You're getting away from God. Get straight to God. Don't get distracted by these sense pleasures.
As you're saying that, like, I'm picturing myself having sex with someone standing at my bed, like, hey, man, you're distracted. Come on, stop fucking. It's like, get out of here, pervert. You freak. Like a peeping Tom taps on the window. You're distracted. Stop. I think that, yeah, sure, it's a distraction, but
I'm not trying to entirely to agree, but anyway.
I think it's a, well, it's like anything else, It's like, it can be as incredible and powerful a thing as you want it to be. It could be nothing. It can be, It can ruin your life, but it can make your life great. But I know this. Like, if you don't do this meditation stuff, or at least contemplation, or at least face the loneliness,
right,
then you are going to have 80s divorce mom music style sex. Like, you're going to have, like, feels like I'm walking on broken glass. Or, like, that, like, give me just one more night. Give me just one more night. That bullshit, Oh, let's make it through the night. Oh, we made it through the night by fucking. You're so lonely. To make it through the night, you have to be, like, sticking your cock into something to, like, to just anything to avoid the reality of the human predicament. But if you can get through the hallway to the other side,
yes,
then you can have great sex. Then your sex is like what Ram Dass talks about when he says, oh, being in love, I am in love. I'm in love. I'm sitting here in love because everything's love. And if you want to come be in love with me, come be in love with me. Like, let's sit in love together.
Let's sit in this field.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, the Ram Dass sort of application of of, of the Eastern turn on, of the Eastern methods sort of, kind of layered on top of like, psychedelics, sex, eating food, even all of these things. It's such like this new beautiful paradigm.
Yeah.
Because Ram Dass saw it and he was like, oh, wow, I don't have to give up all of these things. I don't have to be a renunciate. I just have to learn to love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right. That's it. And that is why, like, but since then, like, and here we are, we're in the epicenter of it, like here at the, the Psychedelic Science Conference, like so much of the psychedelic community, like the whole guru system, like that whole sort of, like anything that it has sort of a predefined sort of route to take.
Yeah.
It's like, no. That's someone else's trip, man. Individualism. Yeah. This is about individualism. It's about the power of your own mind. You don't want someone else's trip. Right?
Except I'll be your guru.
Except for mine.
Yeah.
Except for my trip.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the weird thing. A lot of these people are like, you shouldn't have a guru, but let me tell you what's going on. Okay, guru. What do you have to tell me?
That's so funny. Yeah. But what do you think? Where's the disconnect there? Why is like the psychedelic community, I'm generalizing, of course, because it's not entirely true, but why does the psychedelic community sort of have this disdain for like, religion?
Well, I think at the very best, a person who's taken the psychedelic path as their meditative practice is making contact with God, like is having contact with the divine.
Yes.
And so from that contact, they're like, well, I don't really need somebody to translate this thing because I'm in direct contact with the universe right now, and I'm filled with love, and I don't really need anybody to help me.
Yes.
So that's the very best. I don't know, the very worst, maybe just a kind of lack of humility. You just don't want to deal. You don't want to like admit, and also you wouldn't want to admit that there could be the potential for a being to become actualized. You've never really seen it. You've only heard about it. Sounds like a pipe dream.
Well, and it's also the difference, though, and I know this because of my dad's work and my dad's life, and just spending time with him. The doorway in, to like the great ride is the brain.
Yes.
Is the mind.
Yes.
Yeah. And, the whole like guru system or like, the spiritual trip, it's the heart.
Yeah.
And it's the soul.
Yeah.
And it's, a unification. It's a unified field of consciousness that we're all playing in and existing in and dancing our Leela in. But, through, his experience, it was like, no, the brain is the absolute, like, that's the pilot of the ship. So,
the brain.
It's just very different.
Yeah,
it's just very different.
It's like not. So it's kind of like you don't just. The thing you're stuck on, I guess, is your brain.
Yeah, because like, do you find like you want to, like, do you kind of get into this mode where you're like trying to like, I want to learn how to use my brain better? I don't.
Well, I mean, I think there's questions you can ask that are great questions. I was just sitting down with someone chatting about getting into the flow state. And I was saying, like sometimes when I do my podcast intros, it just comes out right away.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's like, oh my God, that's exactly what I wanted to say. I don't have to edit it. Don't have to repeat it for 2 days straight. Don't have to like have 8 cups of coffee. Or it was just, what the fuck? It just worked. And he's pointed something out. It's quite logical. Well, what were you doing when that happened? What were you doing before it happened? What were you doing the night before? What were you taking any drugs? Were you not taking drugs? Were you drinking lots of, and that reminded me of something that David Nichtern said to me in a podcast once when I was explaining this, like what I consider to be a profound spiritual experience. And he's like, okay, but let's really look at it. What was it really? And I think that idea of exploring why some days are better than other days, why sometimes I'm more fluid in the way that I talk, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm stammery, sometimes I'm articulate, some days I'm inspired, some days I'm depressed. Why? What is that? And if we could understand why that's happening, and you could start dialing it in, even by 3% more, 4% more,
right.
Whoa, fuck. So yes, I think it's a worthwhile exploration if there are dynamics in our nervous system that can be altered.
There's variables that can be changed.
Yes.
Constantly. So where'd you arrive at with Nickturn? Like what was he saying about that?
He was just saying the classic, your spiritual experiences are your traps. Like if you have some heightened, incredible moment through meditation and spend the rest of your life trying to achieve that moment again.
Right.
You're living in the past.
Well, it's like drugs too, right? That first hit of crack is fantastic, man.
Chasing the dragon,
Tell me
man.
about it, yeah.
Chasing the enlightenment dragon. And so you're like, oh boy, was I ever enlightened in that day. And now I'm not anymore, because this thing that I'm doing right now is clearly not the thing at all.
Yeah. It is really interesting, though, because I do wonder, like, there's not, faith is sort of what, how faith is defined as really just a collection of your own experiences and putting belief into your own experiences, and that's your faith, right?
Or to quote Gary Busey, fantastic adventures in trusting him. The worst. Fantastic adventures in trusting him. Faith. F-I-T-H.
Fantastic, man. Wow, that almost sounded like Matthew McConaughey gone bad.
Weird. That is kind of what Busey is.
Yeah.
He's like a mutated McConaughey.
He is like a mutated McConaughey. That's funny. But, there's things happen like when you're trying to control the variables, which is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Optimizing the variables
Yes.
to make your situation optimal.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how Ram Dass describes Dharma in those 74 neurobutalks. Dharma is not like what path you're supposed to be on. Dharma is about removing all of the conditions that make your state anything less than ideal.
Wow. That's cool.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, because then it's just stripping away. Okay, well that's lame,
Yeah.
Get rid of that, and then you're just making your experiences optimal as possible, right?
Yeah, that's cool. We do it, right? You do it when you're, according to weather, walking down the street.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I'm going to take my jacket off. Seems pretty obvious. Yet somehow when you're walking down the street of your life and there's some ridiculous personality construct you've been carrying around. I hate people. I just don't trust people. I don't think people could be trusted. If that's like your motto, or you've got some motto.
Right.
People have these fucking mottos that are ridiculous. You could just go to the Twitter bios. It's like, here's a classic motto. You see this so much. It's so sad. Do me right and I'll be your best friend. You cross me and you're dead meat. Like that's the way people live. That's a religion.
Oh my God.
That's an actual religion that people live. So when you realize like, that thing that I've been wearing around, or another classic, there's no such thing as God. There's no such thing as God. That thing, this thing you've been wearing around, you're like, why don't you take that off? And here, try on something else. Or maybe like, I know exactly what he's saying. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I need to be with someone. I'm not worthy of love. I get it. But we wear that shit until the day we die.
Yeah, we do. We wrap ourselves in jackets of sort of convenient little misbeliefs,
Yeah, convenient little misbeliefs.
Yeah. Because they're digestible. But so, this thing like when you're optimizing your conditions, like there are a few things in life that I know for me, like something happens when you're doing them where things fall away. Like, like when you have, there's something about the physiological response, not just in your body, but also in your brain when you have sex, right?
Yeah.
When you have sex, you're in it. You're not thinking about something else. You're not thinking about what's for dinner.
No.
You're lost in that, that fluidity of making love, right? So there's that. When I sing the Hanuman Chalisa, something happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, where I get locked, I
Yeah.
get locked into it and things fall away.
That's cool.
And it's almost like, in a way, like lost time, like that 7 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Boom, it's gone. Being in the float tank, when you drop into the float tank, that's another one.
Yeah.
To me now, it's like I floated yesterday or a few days ago for an hour and 45 minutes, and it was just lost time.
Wow.
So there are some things that we can do that do, like I think are, we've figured it out some way along the way.
Yes.
Somehow that, induces these experiences.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just a wonder why we don't do them more.
That's one of the big questions.
That's the big question, right?
Yeah, that's a funny question where you're like, when you get off the treadmill and you feel reborn.
You feel fantastic.
And
right.
you're like, well, why am I not doing this every day?
Why don't I do that every day? Yeah.
Or you eat healthy for a few days and you like,
why is that? Why don't we do the things that are best for us all the time? Not just you, Duncan Trussell or Zach Leary, but the whole human species.
Isn't it in the Bhagavad Gita? Hold on, let me look at it. I think there is hold on, actually, I think this question is asked in the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, is it?
And why don't we refer to Krishna? Hold on.
Okay.
This is from the Penguin Bhagavad Gita translation, which actually I like this translation. Chapter 3, verse 36. Praise God. Get out your Bhagavad Gitas and let us pray.
Hare Krishna.
Arjuna says, what power is it, Krishna, that drives man to act sinfully, even unwillingly, as if powerlessly? And Krishna says, it is greedy desire and wrath born of passion, the great evil, the sum of destruction. This is the enemy of the soul. All is clouded by desire, as fire by smoke, as a mirror by dust, as an unborn babe by its covering. Wisdom is clouded by desire, the ever-present enemy of the wise. Desire in its innumerable forms, which like a fire cannot find satisfaction. Desire is found a place in man's senses and mind and reason. Through these it blinds the soul after having overclouded wisdom. Set thou, therefore, thy senses in harmony, and then slay thou sinful desire, the destroyer of vision and wisdom. They say that the power of the senses is great, but greater than the senses is the mind. Greater than the mind is buddhi, reason, and greater than reason is he, the spirit in man and in all. Know him, therefore, who is above reason, and let his peace give thee peace. Be a warrior and kill desire, the powerful enemy of the soul.
Wow, far out. So we are shrouded with this quality. It's referred to as desire. They're calling it desire, right? Which, God damn, that can mean a whole number of things. I mean, on a interpersonal level, that can just mean, pizza and sex and too much television.
Yeah.
For Donald Trump, it's just the consumption, greed, power, money, whatever. Same quality, though.
Same quality.
Thing. So this thing that we call desire. Okay, so if that's the case, then why was that sort of given to us? Why was that quality given to us at all? In order to create like the ability to have a revelatory state so you can figure it out? Like why was that? Why are we hardwired for desire at all, I wonder? Because it seems very counterintuitive in the sense that it creates a destructive quality, a self-destructive quality within us.
Okay, like one answer could be, well, what we're programmed, what our DNA, spiritual DNA is for is service, or for
yes,
we're
unconditional
made
loving of God,
yeah,
and
that's it,
and every expression.
And so it's kind of sad because the incarnation we have gotten into here,
yes,
is forgetfulness. We're forgetful, and we are also if we're all surrounded by the material energy of the Lord.
Yeah, sure.
So everything's God.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Prakriti and Purusha. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
So, but because of our amnesic state, we're kind of like running into the material energies because it's right in front of us, and that's where we're trying to like hug Krishna. It's
right.
like this material energy. It is God's energy. It's like, oh fuck, this is God. Oh my God, this is it. This is when you're having sex or when you're falling in love and you're that thing is happening during sex that you say happens during the Hanuman Chalisa. It's like, oh, I'm with you again.
Right.
For that flickering moment. You're like, this is it. We're back in Vrindavan. This is it. Oh my God, I'm with you, Krishna. Oh, you're here. Where'd you go? And then you're like, oh my God, there's nothing. That didn't do anything. It's gone, but it was there for a second. It reminded you for a second. And that's why it seems like right after that question, this beautiful hierarchy of experience is thrown out, which is like, if you look at the highest thing, higher than reason, which is fucking crazy, is knowing me, knowing God. So it's like the problem is maybe that we're knowing God in these flickering moments of like it's kind of the difference between like smelling your girlfriend's shirt versus like hugging your girlfriend. And we're trying to smell Krishna and like all these like different things. Oh, is that my God? Oh, I think that's God. No, it's not God. It is, but it isn't.
It's a reminder of what God could be.
It's all
perhaps, you know.
It's just you could like the idea is like, all right, when are you going to stop smelling my shirts? Like come when you come to me.
Get down to it.
I'm at just go down that hallway. I'm in that room right there.
Right. So I have this suspicion that, especially now, looking at the way things are in 2017, I have this suspicion that we are wired for this duality, because this is a duality, it's a dualistic state.
Yeah.
Right. This isn't a unified state of being.
That's right.
This is an inherent contradiction with the human condition.
Yes.
Right. So I look around now, and I'm like, okay, well, that's intentional, because human being version 2.0 is going to be a much more refined, efficient, smart, compassionate, less wasteful version of ourselves, and we're gonna have to learn hard. I mean, this is going to crumble around us, and then there could be, however that's going to happen. I mean, I tend to think that there's some sort of cyborg nanotech sort of fusion, that's part of the mutation that's going to be happening.
Yes.
It's good. There's
like that neural mesh Musk is working on.
Something like that. Yeah, because I mean, we've talked about this before in the past, but like I no longer think artificial intelligence should be called artificial intelligence. It's not artificial.
Right.
It's just us.
Sure.
If we're nature, then what we create is nature.
Yeah, that's right.
Like an apple falls from the tree, artificial intelligence falls from the human.
Yeah, that's right.
Just our shit, right? So it is going to be some kind of fusion, this neural mesh fusion that combined with some sort of like realization like Krishna is talking about here, which is going to be hardwired into us, because it's not hardwired into us, and that's the struggle. That's why it's so hard.
Well, I don't know.
It's not. We have to learn it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. There is you gotta like.
Well,
I mean, there's a game. It feels like that. This is where you get into like you have to learn it. Why do you have to learn it? Why is there the separation? Why are we in the period of separation right now? Why don't we get to experience the totality of everything or get closer to it? Or why is this ridiculous game going down right now where I'm playing hide and go seek with love for some retarded reason? Like, what am I doing here? Why aren't I sitting and meditating? Why don't I chant Hare Krishna? Why haven't I stopped eating meat? Why am I, doing these ridiculous things when the times that I'm not doing these things and following the regulative principles or just like even trying to follow
just trying. Yeah. I mean,
the immediate shift that happens right away, you're just the edges go right off of you.
It's very, very fascinating. So you brought up something just a second ago that about when you said about eating meat. That reminded me of something I wanted to ask, which I'm not sure what to call it yet, but something like I call this. We're living in the age of big data and our intake of data, right?
Yeah.
So something's happened within the last 10 years, especially to me, especially within the last 10 years, that's really amplified is we have been given these fantastic sets of data that give us this revelatory information about, like, you could take the Snowden papers, right?
Yes.
That's a good example. How fast food really works.
Yeah.
But yet, nothing really changes. I mean, it changes a little bit, but there's some sort of, it doesn't really change.
Yeah,
Yeah, so people watch those crazy fast food movies and they go to McDonald's the next day.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, the Snowden papers, that exposed everything, but nobody's changing their digital behavior. They don't care.
Nope.
Nobody gives a fuck. It's like, oh, wow, NSA's watching? Okay, whatever, I don't know,
Yeah, no one gives a fuck.
No one really. Why are we like that? Why are we doing that?
Well, I mean, it's a lot, probably because we're doing okay. Like,
we think we're doing okay.
Yeah, but I mean, compared to, like, let's look at, like, I don't know. I'm not. The problem is, like, all these things happen, have the potential to happen slowly. The way it could happen is slower than people think. So it's the frog boiling thing that people they like to say. The frog gets boiled slowly. So it's kind of like you make these little encroachments into a person's private lives.
Yeah.
And you think, you eventually will get to the point where you're just like, I really don't care if they're monitoring me. If they're monitoring me, I certainly can't stop it. And I know they're monitoring everyone, so they're probably monitoring me. I know my heart. I know what I am. And if I get arrested for something that I've said, then fine. I'm gonna get arrested. If I get shot for a thing I've said, I get shot. But it's like, to fight this enemy of privacy right now is impossible. What are you going to go write a manifesto? Or what are you going to do? What's your plan? You could talk about it, but nothing's going to change until they start coming for us at night. And that starts happening, if it should ever start happening. That's when things are going to get a little more rocky for the authorities, if there truly were authorities or prince or people in power that wanted to begin to arrest people. Then shit's going to get weird, because I think the difference between this country and maybe some other countries where that stuff has happened is there are some crazy armed lunatics who will go. It'll make fucking Waco seem like just an appetizer compared to what these people will do, because they will go nuts, man. Not me, but I'm saying this is what's interesting. Where the far left and the far right, this is where they meet.
Yeah.
They both are like, fuck that. That's not going to happen. You're not going to pull that off here. The Antifa and the fucking, like, militias are both like, no, we'll set shit on fire.
Right.
And I think anybody who looks at American culture from the perspective of domination is probably well aware of that. They're like, yeah, they will blow shit up. Yeah. I mean, we can, like, send some gunships in and start firing on them in the streets, but that's not going to be a good look.
No, it's not a good look. Yeah, it's really, really fascinating. So do you have, like, I don't know if you think of sit around thinking of shit like this, but, like, I do, just because it's fun, not because I'm trying to be pretentious or, like, presumptuous or anything, but, like, how's it gonna shake down, like, our living systems? Like, what do you think is next?
Well, we can look at, like, we can kind of so you think, all right, what are the systems that? Well,
like, okay, so no matter what side of the fence you're on, doesn't matter, political spectrum, none of that fucking matters. Religious, Muslim, Christian, doesn't matter. You mathematically, all of this. Keep looking outside because we're on the 8th floor of a hotel room, city view right now. This is not sustainable. We can't keep doing this. It's not. There's just the math doesn't work. It's just it's not possible.
Yeah,
too many people, not enough resources. We don't know how to manage them. Something, not in our lifetimes, but something's going to give.
Oh, you don't think in our lifetimes? I would disagree with that.
Really?
My God, yeah. We're looking at like a. I mean, you could see, you could look at it. There's so many. You could break it into categories. Environmental.
Sure. London underwater, New York underwater.
Yeah.
Right.
So or like societal. breakdown in some
either one
incremental system or some essential system. So like okay, so when you break it into those two categories, on one side environmental, the obvious one, and then there's the other one that people really just ignore, which is like meteors do smash into this planet.
Well, dinosaurs.
Yeah, and probably other times too.
Yeah.
We get slammed into. So this planet gets completely reset.
Right.
And it does happen.
Right.
So,
Well,
and then also the super volcanoes and all the shit that they make the trash science TV shows. 10 ways you're probably going to get killed by the Earth.
Right.
Okay, fine. Then the other side, we have the dark and the light. So we have what I'd say if I was a betting man and I had to bet on a dark outcome, my bet would be bioterrorism or a chemical attack.
Or some kind of virus.
Yeah, some kind of virus, but probably a
contagion sort of thing.
virus that was created in some
in a nefarious way.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So read Demon in the Freezer. It's a really interesting book. So I would say we're looking at a surprise bioweapons attack by some kind of group of fanatical people, whether that's going to be nationalists or Muslims or Christians or Buddhists or whatever the fuck.
Right.
Probably based on the ones who are doing the attacks right now, I would put my money on an Islamic or fundamentalist terrorist cell.
Or crazy right-wing nationalists, but they're not as high-tech.
I think we're looking at an Islamic, fundamentalist Islamic terrorist cell that has somehow...
Oh, I didn't know you were racist. It's weird.
I'm not racist.
Just kidding.
These bastards are running trucks into people, Yeah. And my guess would be the problem is like the technologies are getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
So how long before just anybody is going to get like a home satellite kit, launch a satellite into space, or how soon before people are going to figure out how to do this shit in some way that up until now powerful, wealthy people have had access to shooting satellites into space, but certainly not anyone anywhere on the planet. What happens if you could figure out a way to do that? So you could like just start shooting down satellites or getting something up there that starts taking down GPS satellites. Or what happens if you like get a wetworks laboratory going in your fucking like underground basement and figure out a way to use some as of yet non-existent genetic 3D printer to blast out some beautiful hybrid smallpox, Ebola aerosolized spray that you start dispensing in fucking malls and public parks across the country or anywhere. What happens then? How is this not going to happen? We see where technology is going. We understand that there are certain sectors of our species that really want to knock the fucking cards off the table. They want to throw the monopoly board against the wall and start over or go back a few thousand years to a different time. Either way.
There are a lot of people who want that.
Fuck yeah.
Right here in this country.
Ooh, gotta get it back to the 50s. Let's rethink the 50s. Let's rethink the,
I mean, Ted Nugent fucking is talking about that all the time.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah. So that's the dark side of it is like the problem is.
So let's get into the light side. So, we get the problem. So what, because I don't think it's not 100% annihilation. I don't know what the math is, but I think it's like a 98% annihilation. And 2% of whatever at that time of 20 billion is still a lot, right? 1% of 20 billion, still a lot of people. So how do we, what's going to be the next living condition? I mean, you're into Burning Man. Burning Man's kind of an interesting model. Sustainable communities, kind of like that, are an interesting model. But how are we going to do it? What's going to be like?
People like Jeff Sessions are going to become increasingly powerful.
No, light. We're talking about light.
Oh,
light. The light.
To me, that is the light. I want Jeff Sessions to become the emperor of Earth.
Oh, fucking North Carolina.
I think the light thing would be that if we're going to look at the light, then it would be a systematic, strategic process that begins the deregulation, decriminalization, destigmatization of psychedelics. We start getting these healing chemicals in our bloodstreams through more formal methods so that people who normally wouldn't take them start taking them. People begin to experience that kind of consciousness shift. That gets to all levels of government. this causes a kind of it as they say in the program, it's an inside job, right? So it would be. Here's something I've been thinking about lately. I don't know how much time we have. I'll try to say it quick.
10 minutes.
So, you know the Emerald Tablet, the alchemical scripture.
Sure.
As above, so below.
Yes.
So this is the thing I've been thinking as I can on a daily basis contemplate whether or not the Illuminati exists.
Yes. Okay.
And so I think, oh man, I know as a human that I'm a self-deceiving creature.
Yes.
I eat things that I know are bad for me and pretend in the moment that they're okay.
Yes.
I'm a self-deceiving creature. I trick myself. So if I'm a self-deceiving creature, and not just in that way, like if I, look through...
I've got a million examples like that in my life. Yes. Yeah.
So you're a self-deceiving creature. Humans are self-decept. We deceive ourselves. Yeah. So inside of us is a lot of things that we don't want to look at and we want to pretend aren't there that are there. And so if that's true for the individual, and if the government represents the sum total of all people, then it must also be true for the government, which means that the government has its own subconscious and the government is doing its own nefarious things within itself that would match the general pattern of self-deception inside any human, right?
Right.
So the implication, as above, so below, this would mean that if there was a process or a new methodology through plant medicines and technology that we could begin to harmonize our interior universe, then that would have to reflect into our government. It would have to reflect into, and once it reflected into our government, everything would change around the planet. Because imagine American, like the American power mixed in with psychedelic wisdom so that this country somehow just takes a little shift. I don't know how it would work.
Yeah, but part of it is also, too, is no longer, it's like no more nationalism.
Well, yeah. Or
I mean, that's part of it for me. It's like no more American power. There's just,
Well, here's the problem, though, right? Maybe this is me being a brainwashed drone. And maybe there is no ISIS. Maybe there is no Taliban.
Yeah.
Maybe there really is no group of dudes who want to put their women in beekeeper suits and who beat them if they drive.
Right.
Maybe that's just what they tell us over here, and everywhere else it's a goddamn oasis of love.
It exists.
It's Xanadu, baby.
Yeah, Sharia law is a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the problem is, okay, let's get rid of the borders. Except the people with the mind virus that want to fucking rip up women's vaginas and make them wear beekeeper suits, beat people in the streets, throw gay people off buildings. Let's say it's 1% of us. It's not all Muslims. I know that.
Yeah.
I live in New York. I know Muslims. They're awesome. They're sweet. They're smart. They're like devotees.
Yeah, right.
I know it's not all Muslims, of course.
Right.
Yet, in the same way I know not all fucking Christians are like handling snakes up in the Appalachian Mountains.
Right.
So in the same way, it's like, all right, what do we do then? We're going to open the borders. We're going to like...
No, but that's what I think happens. It's a disintegration of all of these ideas going. We're all sitting in a circle. We put them in the middle into the pot, going, okay, we're all wrong.
Oh yeah, I can do that. I'll throw everything I've ever done in a pot and set it on fire and be like, fuck it, I don't care. I'll do that.
Yeah, we're all wrong.
Okay,
we have to agree that we're.
Hey man, I agree. I'm all wrong. I was probably wrong about like all this shit that I did. it was like egoic and like I should have like given more to people. And hey, you got the guy who last week threw those 5 gay guys off the building in fucking Syria. Hey, you know you're all wrong too, right?
Yeah.
No, he's going to be like, you're fucking a goddamn infidel. You don't even know what you're saying. You have no idea. Here's the thing, man. As long as we live in a world where if you draw a picture of Muhammad, who, P.S., as far as I'm aware, no one knows what he looks like. I think he's got a beard. I don't really know. It's a strange thing to me that like there's people who just like draw a picture and like that's Muhammad. Everyone, as long as we live in a world where that exists, where if you draw a picture of Muhammad and get it published, you better get a security system on your fucking building.
Yeah, but I mean the same thing. I mean, you could also say the same thing about all the extreme right-wing Christians who are saying the same thing about gays.
Yeah, well, look, man, there's a difference right now. Let's deal on a case-to-case basis, right? These right-wing Christians who are angry at gays, they're not throwing them off buildings. They're not storming.
They would if they could. You know, I mean, they would if they could.
I don't know, man. I think if right-wing Christians start throwing gay people off buildings, then I will add right-wing Christians to my...
No, I mean, they want to. I mean, if you go to like a KKK stronghold and you set up, opened up Rage, and in the middle of it with a bunch of like transgender, black, beautiful, big tit, they would fucking freak out and kill them all.
I don't know, man. Maybe. Okay, sure. I'm not saying that's not the case.
I think all fanaticism
but we have to look at the fanatical system that is right now growing in power, has actual oil wells, has actual.
But that's also, yeah.
You know what I mean? Show me like this right wing KKK enclave that like people are mysteriously shipping transgender people into, and I'll guarantee you this: they don't have. Multiple.
I just don't think one fanatical system is worse than the other.
Oh, exactly what this problem is.
Yeah.
You and I, we might be fanatics, a different kind of fanatic, but whatever these folks are doing, the normal process of dialogue that is quite often thrown out there as a solution.
But we can't live in a world one way. I don't think nothing. Of course, Sharia law is an incredibly troubled, weird, fucked up way to live.
Yeah.
But it is just as troubling to say 1.2 billion people in the world are fucked up and out of their mind and they're crazy. We can't go around saying that.
Well, let's go back.
We can't.
Let's go back.
We can't create an us and them. We can't split
Let's go back to the Dark Ages. I don't know how many people were on Earth in the Dark Ages. Far less.
Far less.
But I think you could probably look back at the Dark Ages at the way most people were operating back then, as what they call the Dark Ages, burning witches.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, God, we would have been burned at the stake. We were heretics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's totally okay to like look back into the past and be like, how many people do you think were like that form of Christian back then? 100% if you were Christian.
Oh, my God, yeah.
So you could look back in the past and be like, yeah, every single one of you is out of your fucking mind. Every single one of you is crazy. Like, guess what? Flies don't just grow out of, like, shit in a bottle. Like flies, there's eggs. Hell, here's something. Bacteria. Wow, they didn't know.
But the way to treat like radical Islamic, sort of fundamental, theocracies is not to say, "Oh my God, you guys are crazy, fucked up, and deranged." It's to kind of sit with them and be like, "Okay,
won't work. Sit down with go back in time.
It's the only way to do it.
Go back in time and sit down with a group of people who incinerate witches."
No, I know, but that's why.
Say, "Hi, I'm Zach Leary. I'm from the future. Let's have a dialogue."
That's what I'm saying. We haven't done it in a way that makes sense yet. Well, that's not true. I mean, it's not very well documented, but talk to Graham Hancock or something like that. There were sort of utopian panaceic sort of. Yeah, but it's just written history hasn't been kind to them.
But, I just was watching this, woman give a talk on when it's okay to rape your slave. And from the Islamic perspective, and I think it's going to take a lot of dialogue for me to sit down with somebody who's seriously having a conversation about times it's okay to rape a slave.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly troubling. But the weird thing about it is, it's new, because now Christian Doss and all these guys are what they called the hippie trail in the early 70s. They'd ride in vans all throughout Afghanistan, Iraq, and all of these, Syria, and all these crazy places that are now crazy. You couldn't dare go to them because you'd be killed. But it was completely tolerant, open.
I heard a story.
So something happened within the last 50 years.
Russia and the United States started bombing the shit out of them, and they mutated.
And it created a fanaticism. So that's what I'm saying. It's the cause and the effect.
We have to unbomb them.
We have to unbomb them, and that's what we got.
Good luck. Too late. You listen. Here's what happens. This is what happens.
I don't think so. I
Here's
don't think
what happens.
it's too late.
Crusty, old control freak dudes
Yeah.
get into power. And what they do sucks all the time. Whether it's a guy with a beard wearing a fucking Taliban outfit, talking about the virtues of genital mutilation or whatever the fuck those psychopaths do.
Yes.
Or whether it's fucking Jeff Sessions parading around in a suit.
Just as bad.
Speculating over why a fucking island in the Pacific gets to control the United States. Even, I don't care who the fuck it is. The problem is, and I say crusty old dudes, and I know that's whatever you want to call it. It's whatever. It's the opposite of misogyny is. But it's like, this does seem to be the problem. Now, it's not just crusty old white dudes. It's crusty old brown dudes, too. It's crusty old dudes.
Yeah, it's crusty old dudes.
They claw
yeah.
their way into positions of power. They try to control people's levels of experience based on their outdated, outmoded, archaic, unscientific bullshit paradigms. And because of that, you and I have to sit in this beautiful fucking room in a hotel and look out and think, this isn't going to last. Well, you know why it's not going to fucking last? It's because these old fucking crusty dudes,
That's absolutely right.
If I could press a button.
Absolutely, yeah.
If there was a button I could press and eliminate the crusty dudes all around the planet, the crusty, shit dudes with the fucking... I'm not saying it's bad to have hemorrhoids, but they've got, anxiety hemorrhoids, and they've got, old, wrinkled, withered, power
It would
moves.
correct itself, man. It would correct itself.
Yeah, it would correct itself.
It would. Islam would once again become insular and return and just to it.
Maybe. I don't know. I hope so.
Christianity would as well. There wouldn't be the Jeff Sessions and the Ted Nugents of the world.
But where's the button, Zach? There's no button.
No, there is, because they're the baby boomers. Well, in the American context, the baby boomers have been in control longer than we thought. It's lasted a little bit longer than we thought it was going to. It was supposed to be done by now. Generation X was supposed to be controlling shit by now. It's not happening, So we're still, the remnants of the 50s. It's still
there.
It's still there.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big league.
Big league, and it's fucked up. So run for office, Duncan Trussell.
Okay. That sounds good.
Sounds good. That's it, man.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Zach.
Thanks, Duncan.